The reason you start a project with intense energy and then suddenly crash isn't failure. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of your biological limits. We'll show you the system that tracks your natural motivational waves to keep you productive without burning out.
You know this feeling, right? We've all been there. You get that spark, a brilliant new idea, a fresh project. For the first few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, you feel completely unstoppable. You're on fire, working late, waking up with solutions just popping into your head. Your output is just off the charts. And then, boom, out of nowhere, you slam into an invisible wall. The energy vanishes, the motivation just drains away, and you're left staring at a blank screen, feeling totally frustrated, defeated, and let's be honest, kinda convinced you're the problem. But what if that crash, what if that wall isn't a character flaw? It's not about discipline, it's not a lack of grit, it's a biological signal, a loud, blaring alarm bell that our hustle culture has trained us to just ignore, or worse, to try and power through.
So the solution then is to stop fighting a war against your own body and instead learn to work with it. And the system built to do exactly that is called drive cycling. Now look, this isn't just another productivity hack you can add to your toolkit. This is a fundamental shift in how you see your energy, your motivation, and your real capacity for high-level performance. It's about swapping that boom and bust cycle of burnout for a sustainable, powerful rhythm of excellence.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this masterclass. First, we're going to tackle the core philosophy, the energy paradox. Then, we'll get into the science of the problem with the biology of burnout. After that, we'll build the solution with the drive cycling framework and break down why it's so powerful and the science of sustainable drive. Then, we'll make it super practical with your 3-step implementation protocol. And we'll wrap it all up with the single most important mindset shift, mastering structured surrender. By the time we're done, you're going to have a complete blueprint.
So let's jump right into the big idea, the one that might feel completely backwards at first. The core principle of this entire system is a paradox. True, lasting strength doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from the intelligent act of surrender.
Our culture just worships the grind, doesn't it? We're told more hours, more effort, more willpower, that's the magic formula. But that whole equation is just wrong. Think about an elite weightlifter. They don't get stronger by lifting 24/7. That would absolutely destroy them. The growth, the actual strength, happens during recovery. Well, guess what? Your brain, your creativity, your focus, they all operate under the exact same biological law. Strategic rest, what we're going to call structured surrender. It's not laziness. It is not a weakness. It is the most powerful tool you have for actually expanding your long-term capacity for deep, meaningful work. Real performance isn't some linear sprint to the finish line. It's a rhythm, an oscillation between intense focus and deliberate recovery. And that rhythm is where excellence is born.
Okay, so if constantly pushing harder isn't the answer, what is actually going on inside our bodies when we hit that wall? Let's move from philosophy to physiology. Because burnout isn't just a feeling of being tired. No, it's a measurable physiological state of emergency.
The scientific name for this state is systemic depletion. And the most important part of this is the cause. Notice it doesn't say it's caused by working hard. It's caused by fighting your natural energy dips. It's that constant internal friction, trying to force your brain to do creative work when your biology is screaming for a break. That grinding battle is what floods your system with stress hormones, drains your reserves, and leads to that deep, chronic fatigue. By giving this a name, we move it out of the realm of personal failure and into the realm of an objective diagnosis. It's not you, it's your strategy.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. Every day, you've got 2 paths. On the left, you've got forced work. Your energy is low, but you power through anyway, probably with another cup of coffee and sheer grit. Well, that sends a panic signal to your brain. It triggers your fight or flight response, flooding your system with the stress hormone cortisol. Do that day after day, and you get anxiety, brain fog, and eventually total burnout. But now look at the right, aligned work. Here, you see that energy dip as a signal, not a threat. You sync with it. You switch to easier tasks, or you take a real break. This activates your body's rest and recover mode, which actually lowers cortisol. That path, that leads to sustainable, high-quality work day in and day out.
So what are these natural energy dips we keep talking about? Well, they're governed by 2 incredibly powerful and, this is key, non-negotiable biological clocks. First, you have your circadian rhythm. That's your master 24-hour clock. It runs your sleep-wake cycle. And here's the crucial part. Inside that cycle, every single one of us has a 3 to 5 hour window of peak cognitive performance. That's your biological prime time. Second, and just as important, are your ultradian rhythms. These are shorter cycles running all day long. Think of them as 90-minute sprints of high focus, followed by about a 20-minute period where your brain absolutely has to downshift and recharge. The entire drive cycling system is built around honoring these two realities.
Okay, so we diagnosed the problem, systemic depletion, caused by fighting our own biology. So now, let's build the fix. The drive cycling framework is the precise, actionable system for aligning your work with your biology, not against it.
The whole framework stands on three simple but really powerful pillars. First up is the Drive-Cycle Audit. This is all about diagnosis. You can't work with your energy if you don't even know its pattern, right? So the goal here is to become an expert on yourself. Second, strategic task alignment. This is the core strategy. You intentionally match how hard a task is with how much energy you actually have. And third, the Effort Oscillation Protocol. This is your structural defense against burnout. It's the system of non-negotiable breaks that ensures you recover and can keep performing at a high level.
All right, this right here, this is probably the single most important rule of the entire system. Not all tasks are created equal, and you have to stop treating them like they are. This is strategic task alignment. During your peak drive state, that prime 3 to 5 hour window when you are at your sharpest, you have to fiercely protect that time for deep work only. This is for your toughest stuff, strategic planning, writing that difficult report, coding a complex feature. Then, during your low drive states, like that classic mid-afternoon slump, you intentionally shift gears to shallow work or renewal. This is the time for clearing your inbox, doing admin, or better yet, just taking a real break. Trying to do deep work in a low drive state is the #1 cause of inefficiency and burnout.
And this brings us to the engine of the whole system, the core ratio for the Effort Oscillation Protocol, 90-20. This number comes directly from those Ultradian rhythms we talked about. It means you work in a focused burst for no more than 90 minutes, and then you take a mandatory, non-negotiable 20-minute break. And let me be crystal clear. This is not 20 minutes to scroll Instagram or check the news. That's just trading one kind of mental work for another. This is a true break, designed to let your mind go offline. This isn't just a nice idea. It's the guardrail that stops you from driving off a cliff of cognitive fatigue.
So we have the what of the framework. Now let's go deeper and explore the why. Why is working with these biological rhythms so incredibly effective? The science behind it is just fascinating, and it works on a few different levels.
First off, it saves your most precious and definitely most limited mental resource, your executive function. Willpower, self-control, complex decision-making, all that stuff is handled by your prefrontal cortex. Think of it like a muscle that gets tired. Every time you have to force yourself to focus when you're low on energy, you're doing a really heavy, exhausting lift with that muscle. Scientists call this ego depletion. By aligning your tasks with your energy, you're not wasting that precious resource just trying to focus. You are simply focusing. You can conserve that energy for the work that actually matters.
Second, the system actively manages your body's stress chemistry. That mandatory 90-20 rhythm is so much more than a break, it's a biological reset button. When you're in deep focus, your fight or flight system, the gas pedal, is active. That 20-minute recovery break, especially if you get up and move around without looking at a screen, is designed to hit the rest and digest system, the brake pedal. Consciously hitting the brakes lowers those cortisol levels, it slows your heart rate, and it lets your mind and body fully recover from the stress of intense work. You come back to the next session actually refreshed, not just distracted.
And third, drive cycling creates this powerful, positive psychological feedback loop. I mean, think about it. When you schedule your most important work during your peak energy window, you are literally setting yourself up to win. When you successfully crush a challenging task, it gives you what psychologists call a mastery experience. This triggers a nice release of dopamine, the reward chemical in your brain. So your brain very quickly learns a simple, powerful lesson. Hey, following this system leads to success and it feels good. This builds incredible momentum, creating this upward spiral of productivity and confidence that just makes it easier and easier to stick with it.
We've covered the philosophy, the science, and the proof. Now we get to the most important part, actually doing it. This is your direct, no-fluff guide to implementing drive cycling starting right now.
Before you do anything else, you have to be able to answer this one simple question. This is the cornerstone. Everything else is built on this. When, during your day, does your brain feel its sharpest? When does focus feel easy, almost effortless? If you don't know the answer to this with 100% certainty, then finding it is your first and most important mission.
Okay, here are your 3 non-negotiable actions. 1. Map your peak. For the next 3 days, just pay attention. Keep a simple note. Every hour, just rate your focus on a scale of 1 to 10. You'll see a pattern emerge really fast, and that'll show you your 3 to 5 hour peak window. 2. Implement 90-20 oscillation. During that peak time, set a timer for 90 minutes. When it goes off, you stop. Period. No exceptions. You get up and you take a 20-minute physical, no-screen break. Walk around, stretch, get some water, just stare out a window. 3. Schedule shallow work. Look at your to-do list and find all the low-effort tasks. Answering routine emails, filing expenses, setting up meetings. And then you consciously drag and drop those into your calendar during your known low-energy times, like right after lunch or late in the afternoon.
And this brings us to our final, and maybe the most profound lesson of this whole system. It's about completely reframing your relationship with effort and with rest.
So here's the core takeaway of drive cycling. High performance over the long haul is not about grit or hustle or just forcing your way through fatigue. That's a short-term play that always leads to long-term burnout. True, sustainable performance is built on the intelligence of structured surrender. It's having the wisdom to see your biological limits not as weaknesses, but as incredibly valuable signals that should guide your work. It's about surrendering the toxic idea that you have to be on all the time so that you can be truly exceptional when it matters most.
And so we end not with a vague thought, but with a direct and immediate challenge, a command. Forget everything else for just a minute and focus on the first domino that will knock down all the others. Your challenge is this: map your circadian peak tomorrow. Start the log, listen to your body's signals. It is the single most powerful first step you can possibly take. So let's wrap up this masterclass. We started by tackling that universal problem of the motivation crash, reframing it not as a personal failing, but as a biological signal. We named the enemy, systemic depletion, caused by fighting our natural rhythms. The solution is drive cycling. We broke down its 3 pillars: the audit to know your rhythms, strategic task alignment to match work to energy, and the 90-20 protocol to enforce recovery. We looked at why it works. It conserves your mental energy. It regulates stress hormones like cortisol, and it builds positive momentum. And why does all this matter? Because it gives you a systematic way to align your work with your biology for sustainable, high output. The entire framework is designed to optimize your alertness while lowering your stress. And that brings us to the final thought. Productivity isn't about doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.